Okay, let's talk about change. It's a constant, right? But actually succeeding at it? Well, that's a whole other story. Leading change is probably one of the toughest things to get right in any organization. So in this explainer, we're going to break down why so many of these big initiatives crash and burn, and then we'll lay out a playbook for leaders who actually want to win.
So let's just start with a number that should honestly stop you in your tracks. 70%. Research shows a staggering 70% of mergers and acquisitions. And these are some of the biggest, most disruptive changes a company can go through. They fail to create any wealth for shareholders. That is a massive, massive failure rate.
So what is going on here? Is it just bad business strategy or messed up financials? Not really. A failure rate this high points to something much, much deeper. It suggests a fundamental misunderstanding of what change actually feels like for the people who have to live with it and make it happen, day in and day out.
And a lot of that failure comes down to this one critical distinction. See, leaders focus on managing the external change, the new software, the new org chart, the new policy, but they completely forget to lead the internal transition. And that's the psychological roller coaster everyone goes through to let go of the old way and actually get on board with the new. If you ignore that part, you're basically set up to fail.
So to have any chance of succeeding, we have to start by mapping out that human journey. Now, on a big picture, organizational level, this classic model from Lewin gives us a pretty simple three-step framework. First, you have to unfreeze everything. Basically, you got to show everyone why staying put is not an option. Then, you introduce the change itself. And finally, you have to refreeze the new way of doing things so it becomes the new normal, so it sticks. But that's just one side of the coin. Here's the other half of the story, the human experience. William Bridges' model shows us what's happening inside people's heads. See, every new beginning actually starts with an ending. You have to let go of what was. And in between that ending and the new beginning is this messy, confusing, really uncomfortable neutral zone. And how you lead people through that is the real test.
That neutral zone, that's the make or break part of the journey. It's filled with anxiety and confusion. Productivity often tanks. Why? Because the old way's gone, but the new way isn't really working or clear yet. It's limbo. But here's the thing. It's also where all the creativity and renewal can happen, but only if it's handled well. And that often means leadership has to get real, be honest, and just talk to people to get them through it.
A journey this complicated and emotional, well, it doesn't just need a manager. It needs a guide.
And this right here, this is the heart of it, drawing from the amazing work of Kotter. Management is about coping with complexity. It's about planning, budgeting, organizing. It's building the machine. But leadership is about coping with change. It's about setting a direction, aligning people, and crucially, motivating them to move forward.
Let's really zero in on that idea of alignment for a second. A manager, they can draw up a new org chart. That's organizing. It's a design task. But a leader aligns people. And that's not about boxes and lines on a chart. It's a communications challenge. It's about talking, listening, and repeating the vision over and over until everyone is aiming for the same target.
Okay, so if you're going to be that guide, what tools do you actually need in your toolkit to pull this off?
Well, it turns out, based on tons of research, including some landmark stuff by Daniel Goleman, the most effective leaders all share one critical trait. And it has nothing to do with their IQ or their technical skills. It's a high degree of emotional intelligence.
And emotional intelligence, or EQ, isn't just one vague thing. It's a set of 5 key building blocks. It all starts with you, with self-awareness and self-regulation. That foundation is what allows for real, genuine motivation. And only when you've got that internal stuff sorted can you effectively turn outwards, with empathy for other people and the social skills to actually lead them. And of all of these, empathy is just so incredibly critical during a change. It's the ability to put yourself in your team's shoes, to actually try and understand their fears, their anxieties, their perspective, even if you totally disagree with it. Without empathy, a leader is just flying blind through the emotional storm of a transition. Now, when you're armed with that emotional intelligence, you can start to use different leadership styles like different tools in your toolkit. Great leaders don't just have one style, right? They're flexible. They know when to be authoritative and set a clear vision, but they also know when to be democratic to get buy-in, or when to be a coach to help someone grow. The real skill is knowing which style to use and when. All right, let's put all of these pieces together. Let's build a master plan for leading change. And a crucial point before we dive in, right from the expert Kotter himself, Every step in this process matters. But, and this is a big but, research shows that skipping the early groundwork, trying to cut corners at the beginning, that's almost a universal recipe for failure. You just can't jump to the end.
So here it is, Kotter's 8-step roadmap. And notice how it's sequenced. It's so logical. The first 3 steps are all about creating the right climate. You build urgency, you get the right team on board, and you create a clear vision. Then the next 3 are all about engaging and enabling the entire organization, communicating that vision relentlessly, empowering people to act, and creating short-term wins to build momentum. And only then, at the very end, do you focus on implementing and making it stick. That's the playbook. And skipping those first few steps, that's the single biggest mistake leaders make.
So, at the end of the day, leading people through that messy psychological journey isn't about some giant heroic leap. It's about understanding the map, having the right tools, and then just taking that first thoughtful step. So think about your own team, your own organization. What's one small step, maybe just one conversation, you could start tomorrow to begin building a real sense of urgency?